it's not the common thing, not even in Latin America. You see businesses that grow and the sons or the grandkids, they inherit this business. But in technology, the usual way is to let it go, try to get that exit, try to find somebody else. And for me, it wasn't so. I thought I'm going to just continue with my business for as long as I can. But yeah, it was when I had to make the decision, it was actually a very, very easy decision.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Europreneur, the podcast where EO members from all over Europe and join me, your host, Neil Zaval, in talking about their journey, their learnings. And at the end, it's all about meeting interesting people for me. And now we're doing something a bit different. We're doing a few episodes, a spotlight about EO Zurich and the members in the chapter. And my first guest, I'm so excited to have you, actually, because I haven't done this in a long while. And I have to say that every time you smile, I have to smile, which is amazing. So thank you for that. And when I asked you at the beginning, when we started to kind of prep for this show and asked you for your surname, and so I can introduce you, and you say Wendy Jordan, I said, wait, but where you come from, usually you have a much longer name. So I thought we'd start from that and then tell us a little bit about what you do.
Of course. So my name is Wendy Lynn Jordan Lane. Yeah. It's a long one. We have our mother's and our father's last name, and then we also have a middle name, I guess, just in case.
So like 5 generations down the line, they'll have like a dozen names, or is that you always drop something?
Yeah, they start to drop a few names. Some people will kind of hyphenate it or combine it, but usually, at least in Panama, where I'm from, it would be 4 names.
Amazing. So you're from Panama, in Zurich. Could you give us a quick, what we call the elevator pitch of like where you come from, what do you do, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. I was born in Panama, and there I founded an online marketplace called Encuentra 24. And after founding it in Panama, I expanded to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, many other countries in Central America, and some in Caribbean. There I then, of course, worked with companies all over the world for programming, for developing, for designing. My investors were in Malaysia. And I was very interested in living in Switzerland. My co-founder was Swiss. So I worked very closely in the country that I liked it. And after 12 years, I've been living in Switzerland. And I exited my business. And now I live 100% in the country. I'm no longer visiting and traveling within Central America for my business since my exit.
When you say it, it sounds so easy. I just started a multinational company that works in a dozen different countries around the world, and I met some investors from Malay. It sounds so easy. Let's. What's your background? What did you study or anything?
Yes, of course. I studied marketing and advertising. I studied this in Panama. I also studied in Barcelona. I did a master's in kind of alternative advertising, not your normal TV, radio, billboards, and after that, I've studied many other things, from design thinking to angel investing, and
then what? At what age do you suddenly sit in a coffee shop and say, "Yes, I'm going to open a marketplace"? How does it work?
Yeah, it's actually an Italian restaurant, and it was just 28. When I started having that conversation about opening an online marketplace where people in Panama could sell their properties to the incoming amount of investors, of foreigners that were coming into the country, and they were interested in properties or interested in car and making a life in the country, and they didn't know where to start. So this is 17 years ago. Today, we all know about marketplaces. Today, we all know about eBay and all the different platforms that we have in our countries. But 17 years ago, we were still in the newspapers. We were still going through the classifieds and, trying to go see the properties for those, older. But back then, it was an amazing opportunity that we had this conversation, like, why don't we build this and make it possible that everybody that has a home or has a property or has a car or even furniture or a job, they can put it online and then everybody else can come in. We just started this matching of leads and sellers and buyers and announcers.
So you moved from properties to people being able to hire other people in the marketplace?
Exactly. We started with the idea of property because there was a huge positive benefits for investors to come into Panama. But then as you create a marketplace and you start hearing from your users and they're asking, hey, I have a car, where do I put it? I have this furniture, where do I put it? Or I'm offering this job, or I'm looking for a job. Do you have anything? And then we just started expanding the system and creating all these categories for the type of users that we were having. So we had a huge horizontal marketplace that had this very vertical way of working.
It does become a true marketplace. It's not just for something very specific. It could be for a wide range of things.
Yes, exactly. We were catering not only to the property owner, but after that we had brokers, we had developers, we had promoters, and we had to do all our marketing and communication to all of those people, and also listen to them and listen to their needs and adjust our system to what the market was needing.
Hey, you mentioned listening, and I love that. How hard is it sometimes to have a roadmap, especially when development in those days was expensive? It takes a long time. If you make a mistake, it's a problem. To saying, we have a plan, but let's listen to the clients. Is that a tough discussion to have in a team?
Yeah, this is something that actually from the beginning, we created the platform so that the backend had this capacity to adjust it, to create different categories, to create different segments, so that we didn't have to go to our developer each time we had this new idea. Because we were definitely doing something very new. We basically didn't know how to call it back then. We said it was online classifieds, but now today we know that it was a marketplace. And for a marketplace to work, you need to understand what the community needs, how it's evolving, and how to make it successful for all parties involved.
I think one of the hardest things when you build a marketplace is what is called the cold start problem, right? How do you get clients on both ends? So someone who wants to buy and someone who wants to sell. In those days, I assume marketing was a bit different. How did you launch it?
The launch, we definitely went offline. We had to bring all of those people from their usual habitat online. This is, I have to say, before social media. There was already Google AdSense, but so we did a lot of flyers. We were giving away flyers like on the streets. We would go to expos and all these conferences, give out flyers, talk about our product. Radio, quite a lot of radio.
You think it still works today with traffic and all that? Would you recommend young entrepreneurs to think about radio as a platform?
I think I would recommend it to go back to some of the basics, because the newer media is very saturated, I would say. If you're thinking about certain social media platforms, everybody's there. Everybody's trying to compete for attention. But some of the older ones, they're left, quieter. So there's a huge opportunity still to get users from traditional media, such as radio, such as print advertising, and I even heard somebody say about Facebook groups. Everybody moved away from Facebook, but there's still groups of people of a certain age that have purchase power that are still in Facebook and in Facebook group. I'm looking for guidance or for help or offering products.
How did you scale from different country to country in terms of culture? Is it hard, or is it like, we just open another market, it's Spanish, should they be fine?
That's what actually we thought. Panama is actually a very small country, probably the second smallest country in Central America. It's only more than 4 million there. So we quickly thought we need to expand to Costa Rica, which was 6-7 million. But it was proven quite difficult. It's absolutely another culture, another way of doing business. Even the staff, we tried to handle it from Panama, and we did so maybe for a few years until we needed to relocate there, hire local people, hire the local companies to help us. And this formula, then we expanded to Nicaragua, to Salvador, and to Guatemala and the other countries where we're actually operating with staff. But yeah, it's not the same. You would think it's all.
We'll talk a little bit about your new stuff that you're doing, but do you think young entrepreneurs, doesn't matter if it's a store or an online or a SaaS platform or whatever it might be, should focus on each market separately? If I want to open, I want to expand, what would you suggest we look for when we want to expand to a different market?
My suggestion as a marketer would start by testing. You need to understand if your product would work there. So for us, it was to create a segment of the platform where it was already available within the country, and do a small investment in advertising, in some sort of promotion, get the word out there that it is. If it kind of clicks, if there's organic usage of the platform, then it could be a good idea to invest a whole lot more before, going in, guns blazing, and just create a team and a brand. Sometimes it doesn't even work. Sometimes even the name of your company will not translate well into other countries. So yeah, test it out.
I completely agree. I just came back from Australia, and I had some meetings there. And it's so interesting to see how different my culture. I come from Israel. When we go to a meeting, we have a coffee meeting. It has to have action items. You can't finish a meeting with no action items. What happens now? Do we have a deal or not? If so, what's the next step? And then you go to Australia. The coffee is amazing. Mind-blowing. Every place you go, the coffee is amazing. But the meeting is a coffee meeting. There's no necessarily any action items at the end. And it feels so weird. And I think culturally, I had to let go and say, okay, I don't understand how this works. I need to educate myself. I need to learn. And I stopped being that, okay, what now? Are we buying, selling? What's happening? And I had to let go. And so that's why I'm asking. It's very interesting how at the end, you might lose the fight in a new market because we weren't open enough, right? To kind of like adapt, make the changes.
Yeah, I get it. In Latin American countries, people can also be very mistrusting, and you have to have patience. You have to promote your product, your brand, your services. But sometimes you leave the room without having that sale, without having that action item. And it was interesting. Sometimes in Costa Rica, you would feel that people were very positive, and they were like, yes, let's do it. But then it wouldn't be so. It's very different than in other countries where people, their word means something. Yeah, of course it's great, but it doesn't mean that they're actually going to purchase your product or subscribe to your service. Yeah. This is something very different in Panama, where if you say it, yeah, we're going to do it, and we're going to start, and let's go ahead. So there were those little things that you needed to learn, to be patient, to just let them think about it. A little bit like the Swiss. Sometimes they say that the Costa Rica is the Switzerland of Latin America, and it's like that. You need to give them some time, give them all the information, let them come back to you when they're ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed the similarities between Swiss and Costa Rica, I have to say. Tell me something. At what point do you decide you need money to raise money, and how do you find your, let's say, venture capital budget on the other side of the world?
Yeah, actually, we bootstrapped for many years. It was maybe 8-9 years, and there was absolutely no need to get an investor, to have additional capital. But there was a moment where a huge competition that was in Europe and in the US and in Africa decided to come into my tiny country. And this is when we said, oh no, we're going to need a little bit more help, because we started investing in advertising and staff, and it wasn't working, and we needed more power. So this is when we made the decision, okay, let's try to get funding. And somehow we didn't still understand how the funding tour worked back then. So we had some very interesting advice from a Swiss banker who wasn't interested and who said that they didn't invest in companies like ours at the moment. But he said, try to promote yourself. Try to, get the word out of what you're doing, all the way over there. And so that people could know and understand. And this was me as a marketer. I got it. It's like, okay, got the memo, got the brief. So we started doing all types of press releases online and just talking about, we have a new app, we have a new, new event, everything, and started ranking better. And every time we ranked better, we started informing everybody, yeah, we're number 1 in this and number 2 in this, and we're just the best at that. And somehow, I don't know if it was because of that, I still have to ask who was my investor at the time, but they actually approached us and invited us to an event in Barcelona. It was a prop tech event in Barcelona for this huge association of marketplaces. And we went there and he said, wow, it's amazing what you guys are doing. Let's work together. And this is how it ended. We ended up having a investor from Malaysia, but is actually his original from Australia. But he had his company, his venture capital in Malaysia. And this is how we invested in this little Latin American startup.
What a global way of raising money.
It was, but he part of his thesis is to invest in emerging countries. So it's countries that he doesn't go for the top, U.S. or Europe. He went for these countries that had an amazing product with great founders, and find a way to build it up and expand it. And it was thanks to him that we went into different countries, that we ventured into creating huge events and promoting. And he had a lot of success already in Australia, where he was from, with bigger marketplaces there. So he also had the track record. He wasn't only a VC that had the money to invest. No, he actually was for us a source of guidance, of contacts, and of help, because we didn't only want the money, we needed the help.
Yeah, what we say, smart versus dumb money, right?
Exactly. It was definitely smart money. And this is what we wanted. We had before that many local companies that wanted to invest in us. Many companies that they were like, oh yeah, they wanted to, or basically get us out of the market, or they wanted to just see how much it cost or just venture with us. But for me, at least, they weren't going to be a good partner to have in the table when I needed to make a decision. And this was the great thing about having these guys. I know that they were all the way over there in Malaysia. It was difficult to have those calls and those board meeting calls. It was very tricky. You can only imagine.
I'm now having a lot of calls with the other side of the world, whether it's South America or Australia, and I'm finding it very tough, especially because I'm traveling the world right now. So when we book, if I sometimes send the invite, I realize that by the time I get somewhere else, it's 4 a.m. for me. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I have a question, and in many discussions I have with friends who are not all entrepreneurs or business owners and stuff, they do the same job for 2 or 3 years, and they say, I'm tired of it, I need to do something else. And then I meet entrepreneurs like you, people who've built a business for 17 years. Give me a moment in time where you said, I'm out, I don't want to do this again. And then you go back to the office, and then you say, this is amazing.
I think it's that moment when you realize that you created a multinational that is in 5 countries in Central America, that you have, at a certain point, you have 2 investors that are publicly listed, one in Australia and one in the U.S. stock exchange. And where you say, I need help, and I do have the smart money, but I do need, because I do not want to continue operating the business. It takes a toll. So you want a new CEO, you want a new CRO, you want somebody to take care of business development. You want to go back to the fun moments of developing the product. And and also I found myself very much passionate about helping other entrepreneurs via coaching. I'm also a keynote speaker. I'm a mentor to a few startups. So I was getting a lot out of that, and not so much, but I wasn't able to dedicate myself to this because, yeah, it was about growing the business. And after a while, you feel like grown out of it. You feel like you've done everything possible, and you're kind of going around, and you want these new voices to come in and to make it better. And this is that moment when you say, you know what, the best thing would be to step down and to allow somebody else to make this grow and probably take it towards bigger height than I ever imagined.
Is it such a big difference between the life cycle of a business where it's you and another partner bootstrapping, sitting at home, trying to figure it out, right? To the point where you say, I think I need to let someone else take over.
Yeah, it's not the common thing, not even in Latin America. You see businesses that grow, and the sons or the grandkids, they inherit this business. But in technology, the usual way is to let it go and try to get that exit, try to find somebody else. And for me, it wasn't so. I thought I'm going to just continue with my business for as long as I can. But yeah, it was, when I had to make the decision, it was actually a very, very easy decision. And I trust that the new CEO and my investor, we actually purchased that other part of the business, that he's doing, the best with the company, with our mission and the vision that we had.
Was it an easy process to sell?
Well, actually, very much so. Yes, it was. You would think that it was a long process, but I guess there's a formula where it needs to be done very quickly so that there's no chance to go back to renegotiate. So there was this very small window where the decision needed to be made. Of course, it was easy since it was my investor at the time, and we wanted this. We wanted this for many years, my co-founder and I. At least for 2 or 3 years, we kept thinking about it. Pandemic was very difficult for us, having to shut down all of the offices, fire a few people, try to train all of our clients, and at the middle of that, we said, yeah. We're ready, and where do we sign? And then even we had our exit was more of an earnout. So we had this last year, 2022, we had to work on taking the business to this level so that we could have our exit the way, at least a positive, successful exit.
So it feels that at the end, once you decide, or once you have that thought about I want to sell, you still need to go through another 2 or 3 years where it's the last, on the last battery, on the last pieces of bits of energy that you might have. You need to push as hard as you can, so you sell it at the highest as you can take it, which is also kind of weird. Like push just to sell, right?
Yes, it was a year that I had to focus like 100% on the business, that I had to create a complete structure that could work without me or my co-founder, because at the end we were still on this kind of bootstrapping mode where we were doing HR, we were still doing tech, we were still doing finance, and we're involved with product. So hiring all these key players and in Central America can be very tricky. And also creating the operational manuals, things that you're not thinking at the beginning, because I guess maybe today most startups already maybe have this in mind, that they want to exit, that they have to document everything. But after 17 years, you can document whatever. But with technology, every 6 months you can just throw it out because it's different.
Yeah.
So there was no documentation, and during this period, we had to not only operate the business regularly, but prepare for transition and train the new people. So it was absolutely, yeah, you need a few years to exit a business that is quite big.
Very, very interesting. And tell me, when you sell, you sign everything. Next day when it's done, and I'm not sure if you had a period where you had to stay on board or not, but when that's done,
I had to stay on board at least 1 year.
and then that's done, 365 days are over. You wake up in the morning, you sit on the couch, and after 17 years, you have nothing to do.
Exactly. I used to think that for those last few months, I was going to start my next business. I would already know what to do, but for me, it was so intensive to let go of the business, and also I did it in the last December. So you really don't have time to, start another new business or even think about anything else. And for me, it was I need a sabbatical. I was just absolutely focused on that I needed some time off, because I was absolutely jealous of some of my staff and my team, because they could go on vacations. They could really unplug. But for me, for years, it was absolutely impossible. Sabbatical. It was important to take that time to really think about what you want to do, to get back to those things that I've left behind. I had a huge list that I had all these categories, health, education, business, wellness, just catch up with friends and family that I couldn't do during that year and a half that I was preparing for the transition and exit. So for those 3 months, I thought, yeah, I'm gonna catch up with going to the doctor. I want to, go to the gym every day. I want to get better at tennis. I want to go to the dentist. I don't know. So many little things that they're there, but they need their time,
What
And with the
creates that motivation? Like, what made you, after 16 years, when people say, hey, let's catch up, let's meet, say, that's great, but I have to keep working?
For me, I think it was quite a lot about a legacy. It was very important that already the time that it was invested was meaningful. And the company, the marketplace that I had, even if it was for selling properties and for selling cars and for people to find their jobs, it was very rewarding, because it was actually finding people a home, finding a vehicle so that they can go get a job. It was allowing them to have a space to make some money selling some old furniture or selling products. I have been a keynote speaker for all these years, and it was so beautiful that after each event, people would come up to me and thank me so much, because they were able to find a job thanks to my platform. They were able to find a crib for their kids. They were able to sell their car in a moment that they were struggling, and this motivated me to just continue to do what I was doing day in, day out. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about my name or reputation. It was the impact, the positive impact that I was doing with the company, and not only for my clients, but also for my team, for the staff that depended on me. And the moment that clicks, the moment that you start being an entrepreneur and you make that first hire, there's something that clicks where you understand that this person depends on you financially, for their dreams, for their growth, and that motivated me quite a lot.
I'll ask you, I know that you're going on the venture capital route, which is a bit different than just starting a business. It's not that it's an easy job, but it's different than finding another co-founder and starting to hustle by your own. It's what some would define the next level. But finishing your sabbatical, sitting back on that couch and saying, yeah, I'm going to go through this again. So
yeah, it's taken me a while. It's been already 6 months, and I haven't started another company. But just to see if I still have that chip, I wrote down a list of 20 potential companies that if I wanted to start, I could. But before that, I thought, I'm going to get this opportunity to have this investment money, and what do I want to do with it? And like I said, it was absolutely so rewarding to help other entrepreneurs that were part of my platform and other people to realize their dreams. And this is where I thought I really want to invest in other companies that have this same mission, these same values. And I know that I got into the most complicated thing, which is venture capital and risk and investment. And it's interesting, is exactly like they say. They say that it's like studying an MBA, because you have to really understand so much about many other types of businesses. You need to get involved with many of them, to many events. But so far, I've already been doing it a few months, at least getting to know the ecosystem for innovation and tech startups in Switzerland and also in the UK. And I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm still interested. And I will start probably very soon another venture, another entrepreneurship venture in Switzerland that would be absolutely new.
And what?
I like it. It would be absolutely new. I could go back to Panama or Costa Rica or these countries where they already know me, where I know how things work. But there's something very interesting about starting something in Switzerland, and having that challenge of, really, really
So,
reinvent myself.
in terms of venture capital, what's the plan? You pick like a few companies, you throw 100,000 euros and hope for the best. Are you going to work with them? Like,
Yeah, I would love to become a business angel. This is part of my plan. And my idea would be, even in some of them, to be part of the board. I am looking for certain types of companies that at least that are around the subjects that I know, which are prop tech, like property technology, marketplaces, ad tech, and fintech. I could do more, but it would be much more broader, but I would have to learn about them. The segments where I want to work is with companies that have a female founder or co-founder, at least a strong female leadership team. I think when there's diversity, I was very fortunate to have an investor that, that listened to me, that believed in me. And this is something that I want to do. So this is part of my focus. And yeah, around Switzerland, around the UK, and definitely in Central America. These are the places where I would like to find companies to invest in. But for me, more importantly, is that they're impact companies, that are positive, either for the environment, for society. This is a model that I understand, and this is where I would like to invest. But my idea would be to invest a little here and there, quite a lot, but I don't know if 100,000. but yeah, the idea would be to spread it around and to hope for the best, and hope that with these 17 years of experience, that I can help another company to grow and to fulfill their dreams.
you mentioned the list of 20 companies you would like or think about starting.
Yeah. Yes.
How often do you revisit that?
I'm visiting it more each time with my EO forum. I think on our next meeting, we're going to do like a pitch session. We're going to be pitching some of our ideas to see what the other thinks or how, yeah. So I do go back to them because I think there's still a few opportunities out there to increase or to disturb or to innovate the way things are being done. But that sabbatical, it was probably way too long. I did enjoy quite a lot of having some of that free time to learn about angel investing, to catch up with what I need and what I want. And I do want to get back to entrepreneurship, but I believe that there should be different or more modern ways to have a corporation, to have a team, not that same structure of, I am the CEO and you're all supposed to all do whatever I say and want. I believe that there has to be something different. So it is very important for me that if I do create a new team, that if I do go into another venture, that it's a little different. I don't know. I think I still can't pinpoint it yet, but there should be more of an atmosphere of listening. Going back to the beginning, listening to your team, listening to your clients, listening to the environment. And
You joined you joined EO Zurich like 6 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, and you've been an EO member in Panama before that, right?
Correct. I was in EO Panama since 3 years ago. And since the exit, I live 100% in Switzerland. So I decided to change to EO Zurich.
Do you have any role in the boards? Did you ever engage with the...
Actually, yes. I was in GSCA. I was in Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. I was a chair for 2 years, helping Panamanian entrepreneur students to compete so that they could get this grant money and compete globally. Yes, I was part of this.
So I think that's amazing. And part of it, which is interesting, I think, is that, and the structure of EO is that we're members, we pay our dues, and then we also volunteer our time, which is such a weird thing to ask an entrepreneur to pay and then volunteer. And
yeah.
In a sense, we talk a lot about, within EO, about entrepreneurs who say, I'm not getting enough value, I'm getting enough value, and so on. And we always say, have you put in enough? Put in more, you'll get out more. You'll meet more people, you'll engage more. And then what's accountability? And how do you structure that? And the reason why I'm mentioning that, because you're talking about building a company in a different way. And I kind of like it that people would be able as employees to contribute more into their companies, right? So I'm not just an employee, I'm bringing in a piece. And if I don't deliver on my part, so product, marketing, doesn't matter what, it's squeaking, it's not working exactly. But that's based on accountability. So this is what I believe I can do. This is how I want to do it. These are the moving parts that I need to work with. And how does that serve? And the second thing, which I believe, and for me is a huge part of what I'm now traveling the world teaching about branding and marketing and stuff like that. And in one of the workshops, I believe that we have forgotten to build brands. We've built a nice logo, but the CEO will guide us and we have to do what they say and so on. But we don't really ask the brands what they think. So I think that combination might be an interesting way of finding a balance between what the brand needs and how everyone can contribute. And I think it plays out really well in EO year over year.
Yeah, now that you mention it, even the fact that, we have a chapter president that rotates every year and also the foreign moderator, we all have this opportunity to be in another role so that we can see, how they do it and understand how it is to be sometimes the boss and sometimes be the employer. And in companies, it's very difficult. Usually the bosses stay on and when they go back to being a boss, they no longer understand what were the struggles of starting out, of coming in, not understanding how things work.
Yeah, I agree. And you were talking about a legacy. And I think a lot of what we see in EO is you come in for a year or two as a volunteer, and you will only understand what you really had, like what's the impact you really had 2-3 years down the line. And that's your legacy. And you can measure that now. I started a newsletter in Europe years ago and people said, it won't work. Today, the people that are running it, and I'm out of it, 2 or 3 years, are doing an amazing job, much better than I did at the beginning because I was trying to figure everything out. They have an average of 45% throughout the year, of a bi-monthly newsletter, which is amazing. But now I can look and say, hey, that's my legacy. I started it, but they're killing it.
Exactly. This is the exciting thing to see how far it can go and how it can evolve and how it can continue to innovate. So I see that you have also exited a little bit of business and continue to see it grow.
I think within EO, I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of things that now I can see them moving forward. And I think this conversation that we're having is hitting a lot of nerves, not necessarily because of an exit, but mainly because of me evolving as a person and me evolving into the next step and me understanding what would be my legacy and what I want to achieve. So a lot of the things you said, I was like, thinking about what you're saying and how does that impact me and what do I like and agree with and how can I play these things out in my roles in companies or stuff around the world, which I really like. Yeah, I want to say a huge thank you. I feel inspired, and it was like a very easy, comfortable conversation. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much. Yeah, this was very nice. This is very opening to that whole experience.
I want to ask you last thing. One thing young entrepreneurs can take away, and where can they find you?
Well, what can they take away about their startups is that we were all struggling once, that they need to understand that when we start a business, we all go through these doubts and challenges, and it's important to just nurture yourself from everywhere. I used to go to coffee shops and just see how it flowed and how it worked, and get ideas for my online marketplace. So there's inspiration everywhere. And where they can find me, I'm on LinkedIn as Wendy Jordan. I also started a website, wendy-jordan.com. This is where I will be trying to contact startups where I can do some investment. And also, if they want to be hired for any type of keynote speaking or motivation or coaching, you can find me through my website. And also, I'm a little active on Instagram.
A little.
Yeah, a little. It's more social, but yes. Instagram, Wendy Jordan.
So thank you very much. And I hope I either see you in London or Zurich, or please do come visit us in Tel Aviv in Israel. And my dear friends, this was another EOpreneur podcast. And as always, I feel inspired. I hope you too. Go to eoeurope.com. You can learn a lot about our entrepreneurs, what they do, what are the businesses, a lot of key learnings, and feel to follow us on every social platform. We'll put it down here so you can follow us. And if not, the links are in the description below. And I'm Niels Zavauer. See you next time. Thank you very much.